Welcome everyone to 2D4 Damage, a show where we talk about all things RPG, everything from games to mechanics to the lore of the worlds or writing within them, or just our love of dice and minis. My name's Dave, and each week I'm joined by a different co-host to talk about something new. This week I'm excited to be joined by a very talented writer, Joe Raso. Joe, thanks for joining us. This is the second time that you've tried joining us. We always have some kind of glitches going on. Something's always happening here, but I do appreciate you coming on. So tell
Well,
us a
thank
little
you.
bit
Thanks
about
for having me.
yourself. Yeah, tell us about yourself.
Um, what to say? I'm a long-time gamer. Only recently started actually producing, writing things in the community space per se. I'm based outside of Toronto. I guess a good half-hour drive, but yeah, that's a real quick, super summary of who I am.
So, how did you get started in RPGs? I know you're a big D&D fan. When did you start
Yeah, I
that?
yeah, I'd say that's where most of my gaming time has been. Like a lot of folks, I think the first exposure I had was an older relative had a book. For me, it was first edition AD&D with the lovely picture of the rogues pulling out the gems from the idol that my cousin John had, and he was playing with his buddy. He was in high school. I was, I don't know, grade 6, 7, in that range, and I just thought it was amazing looking. The art really pulled me in, and I wanted to get more of that. And I've been playing pretty much ever since.
Well, that is awesome. When did you start writing?
Seriously, for publication, I'd say 2018. 2017, I decided, hey, the DM's Guild looks like it's a real thing. That's something folks can actually do, and I started poking away at a very small adventure, and I think it was March 2018 that I released my very first uh, overly written adventure, I will say, but it was definitely the first step for me. I would think.
Well, that's awesome. So, since your first one, you've started putting together. You've dropped a few others. I know I've had the joy of working with you on the Kyber Chronicles, but you just released a very large project, and it's getting some pretty good traction on all the socials. It looks like so.
Yeah, that I assume you're talking about the Great Dale.
That's the one.
That was one of these things that snuck up on me and then tackled me in the corner. In early this year, I approached Jeff Stevens and Carl Resch. Jeff, for those in the community, probably recognize his name because he's a master at pulling together a diverse group of creators to create pretty fantastic products. And I was lucky enough to submit a couple things for a couple of his collections. Anyways, I approached both Jeff and Carl about writing an adventure with me. So the three of us were going to craft. The idea was to lay out a big series to go from level 1 to level 20, to have a high level sketch of it, but then focus on creating a tier 1 portion of that adventure. And so as we started crafting it, I wanted to base the adventure somewhere in the realms, and I started scanning through previous publications and stumbled across the Unapproachable East. It's a fantastic 3E supplement, and I thought the Great Dale region that's covered in that book would be perfect fit for the type of story that we're going to explore. Then next step was, okay, well, I want to update things to make sure I've got the latest and greatest stuff that's happened in the realm since the 3 publications. So I looked through 4E and any 5E stuff, and the amount of material out there was pretty minuscule. So I go, hey, why don't I pull together some stuff on it? I was communicating with R.P. Davis. He's another prolific writer on the guild, and he himself was interested in exploring more of a regional lore for the realms, and he said, "Well, I'm a bit busy now, but I'd I'd be more than happy to help out," and encouraged me to push forward. So after that, I go, okay, let's see what I can do. And I reached out to a few folks that I'd either met on social media or worked with slightly, and I was shocked at how open folks were to lending a hand of whatever amount they could. I guess that's one of the nicest discoveries I've had in doing this is how welcoming and opening most of the folks in the tabletop space have been on it. So from me looking to find a place to stick this little nascent adventure that Jeff and Carl and I were working on, to suddenly having a stable of 10 writers eager to throw content to me was in the matter of about 2 weeks or so. And then around that time, Lisa Penrose from OBS, and who manages a lot of the community stuff there, made the announcement that they were looking to change how they selected print items for the guild, whereby they would no longer be pushing print items after a PDF has been released. They wanted to release both at the same time because they saw better uptake on sales when both the PDF and the hardcover came out. And so I figured, let me submit the two things I was working on to see if they got traction. And I was shocked to see Lisa say, "Hey, yeah, the Great Dale was a perfect fit for that." So going from, hey, where do I stick my adventure, to having a stable of writers and actually delivering on a hardcover print came awfully fast, and it soaked up my summer.
Yeah, it did. It was, you were a busy man. We were all busy. I was really upset that I couldn't jump in on that. I had a couple good ideas, but I could not do it. So, but I'm really glad that it's come out, and I love seeing all of the great comments on it. I've read nothing but great things about it.
Oh, thanks.
So
yeah, I asked. I think I've got one formal review from tribality.com. The fellow's name eludes me. I'm terrible with names. He gave us a decent review. I think we got 7.9 out of 10 on it.
Nice.
So it's pretty extensive. I'd recommend checking his site out, tribality.com.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go ahead and put a little link to it to that one for anyone that wants to check it out. Just head on down to click on the link, read the review on that. What was the easiest part, you think, for this whole project?
The easiest part. Oh, that's something I haven't thought of.
We always talk about the hardest part. What was the easiest?
Yeah, no. Again, kind of related to what I said earlier. The much easier than I thought it would be was to get people involved. The only folks that said no were ones that were already overwhelmed with stuff that they had on the go, like yourself. And there's a few other folks that indicated interest. They said, "Sorry, Joe, I've got too commitments too much on the go already."
Yeah.
So that getting interest in our community seems to be the nicest, easiest thing that we have in place.
All right. Now we'll jump into it. What was the hardest part?
The hardest part, possibly sticking to schedule in certain aspects, and this kind of relates to, I think, a lot of group endeavors. When I started it off, I had an objective of delivering something in, I think, mid-July or end of July. And so I initiated this probably late March, early April.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I did a decent job of speccing out the pieces of work involved, and kind of setting targets for folks that are helping to do it. But ultimately, I have a full-time job, and life gets in the way. So you kind of have to juggle how much you stretch yourself in the evenings to achieve the targets that you want. And sometimes that results in you not doing everything that you really want to deliver on a product. Like there's a few things that I was hoping to stick into the Dale that it just time kind of prevented me from doing so.
Yeah, I agree that time management is probably one of the hardest things for any of the stuff that I work on. I know it gets in the way of everything. Um, so one of the questions that I get asked, I'm sure you get asked this too, so I'm going to ask it anyway. Someone walks up to you, say, Joe, I want to write. Where do I start? What do you tell them?
To stop asking the question. It was that sort of question was a common theme that I heard at GameholeCon. There's a fantastic convention last week that I attended that had a whole whack of good writing seminars, and everybody wants to know, what do I have to do to get going? And everyone's, not everyone, but a large portion of folks that haven't done anything are concerned with picking the exact right thing to do. If I do this, will that cause me to fail? If I do this, will this ruin my chance of success? And if you listen to a lot of the successful creators that were speaking, um, it's trying to set aside that little voice in the back of your head and just do whatever you're interested in, put it out there. There's you're gonna get feedback and criticism about what you're doing, and some of it will not be nice. Some folks will absolutely hate what you do, but there's more than likely going to be a few folks that really dig the type of stuff that you're doing, and you really have to focus on um, writing or creating the stuff that makes you excited, and the few folks that have the same passion for that area. It might be 2 or 3 folks on the internet, or if you're stupidly lucky, there'll be thousands of folks with the same sort of perspective. But you kind of just have to get past the asking question stage and actually doing it. It's there's no magic bullet.
I like that. So, what was your biggest takeaway, you think, from after all of this? Once you finally got everything submitted, you had the actual product in your hand. What was the biggest takeaway for you?
Um, oh, that's a hard one to answer. How quickly everything went by. Like when you're in the middle of it. I remember around the August timeframe, I had all my content. I had uh, some base layout done, but I had some issues or problems to deal with, and sometimes those fears of the problems and not knowing how to overcome them can be overwhelming. But recognize that, chances are you're going to find a way to get around it, or find someone who can help you solve the problem. So even if an issue is completely daunting for you, realize that, what, chances are you're going to be strong enough to get through it, and within a few weeks it'll just be this little amusing blip that you had to deal with, that you got by. I mean, looking back, what is a great Dale? I produced something, I think, but the time goes by awfully fast, and those problems disappear. I don't know if that's a good answer or not.
No, that's a great answer. I know I did put out the question on Twitter. People were asking what would you ask Joe, and one of them was what was the lesson you learned in working with that big of a group?
Consistent message or direction. I have realized over the years as I'm working, I tend to be a bit more loosey-goosey than I should. And people like to know what you're expecting of them. I want an article that is so many words, or I want to cover this stuff. People want to hear the things that you're looking for in an article. And I don't think my natural tendency is to do that. I'm eager to see what other people deliver. So for me, that was kind of not sure if I answered your question, but that for me, that was one of the the learnings that I got from working on a big group to provide a good consistent direction for folks to follow in terms of what I was looking for.
Yeah, and I have to say you did put out a really good communication. I was still included on your communications thread, so I was watching all of that go back and forth, and I was impressed. It was very good. It's
Thank you.
really easy to drop the ball on that stuff. I speak from personal experience on that one. Sometimes it gets overwhelmed. Like you said, life just comes out of nowhere sometimes. We all, most of us as writers, we have that, we have real life still that kind of gets
Yep.
in the way of everything else. Full-time job, kids, spouses, everything else that comes with that. And so I think the time management and the communication is definitely what I would recommend to anyone is, working with big groups and just sticking to it, and as hard as it
Yeah,
is.
and I found in all the group projects that I've worked with, people coordinating things recognize that life happens and that there's going to be blips that, oh yeah, I said I'd get something to you for Sunday, but guess what? I've been in the hospital with my kid dealing with whatever issue. I think most folks are understandable of that and can put some wiggle room. Having said that, meeting the commitments that you've made for groups is hugely important. Mm-hmm. So if you say that you're going to deliver somebody a guideline by a certain date, you know what? Do whatever you can to sort of get that date, because people are depending on you. And if you don't deliver that, it might be a slight annoyance, but you may not be aware of all the trickle-down effects where that one missing piece can have to other folks working on the same thing. So if you are working on a group project, do whatever you can to achieve that commitment of dates that you might have given, but recognize that there's usually a little bit of wiggle room that good creators or groups can accept.
Yeah, I agree. Open communication. It really comes down to that when you're working with those large groups, and it's a big one. So what's the next big project you're working on? That's the $1 million question right there.
Well, I have to admit, I'm finally getting back to the adventure that kicked all this off with Jeff Stevens and Carl Resch. So my hope was to get it done by the end of the year, but looking at the reality of life and things, I'm guessing it'll be early in 2020 that we publish the item. But yeah, that's my current big one. I've got a few small things under the way. I think Alan Tucker is organizing an Eberron product that hopefully will be released shortly after the big Wizards product gets released. Is it next week or the week after? I can't remember.
Or 19th, I think it was.
Yeah, right. Next week. So doing a little bit of that. I'm eager to stay active with the Kyber Chronicle. That's been a fun thing that you folks have organized for some time.
Yep, hoping to have the next one out by the beginning of December. So love to have you on board with that one. You've got some great articles in there. I've loved working with you on that.
Awesome. Yeah, besides that, I've got a list of like 20 items that I'm trying to figure out where I actually apply my time. And I think that's the thing I find most frustrating is I don't have the time available to do all the ideas that are kind of percolating out there. And I want to stay engaged with the community as well. Like I want to participate in those group projects. But I think one of my largest problems is saying no to, hey, do you want to do this? Oh yeah, that sounds great, Joe. And then realize, oh crap, how am I actually
going to do this?
Fit that into the schedule.
Already. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
So I have been there. So that's great. So you said you went to GameHoldCon. I want to hear all about it. Tell me stories. I haven't made it to that one.
Yeah, I'd say I'm a bit of a newbie to the whole gaming convention set environment. The first big convention, I guess it's not really big, but it's a pretty darn good one, was Winter Fantasy in Indiana. Shoot, why can't I think of the name? It's in early February. But GameHoleCon I found was a bit bigger, and they had lots of seminars. I was astoundingly happy with astoundingly getting the words wrong. Happy with the convention. Again, related to what I said earlier, I'm amazed at how open and welcoming folks are in the gaming community. Like wandering around the convention floor, you can speak to I'll call them luminaries of the gaming world without problem, and many of them are very happy to sit and chat with you about anything and all. It was a fantastic time.
Get a lot of D&D time in there. Play some D&D.
A bit. I would say the highlight of my gaming that weekend was an impromptu game that Jeff Stevens organized. Me, Chad Lynch, and Travis Legg played one of his adventures. I tweeted about it. I can't remember the exact name, but it. Wow, my sides hurt from all the laughing that we had. It was a tremendous time, and I have a new appreciation for the value of the carpentry tools skill in a game.
That sounds like a fun story there.
It was. If I can dig that up later, I'll send you the link to Jeff's adventure. It was a very well done piece. He did a great job of running us through it.
Nice. That
and
is great.
Travis and Chad were stupendously funny to game with too. So.
Yeah, the entire community is always great. It's one that I GameHoleCon's one of them's on my list of conventions to get out to. I've got a lot of them here in Utah that I have commitments to already, but I'll make it that direction. Just like you're gonna make it.
I'm amazed at how many games that or little gaming conventions you guys do manage to organize. I took a look and was astounded. How do you find time to do anything else?
Yeah, we overwhelmed ourselves this year. We've got amazing volunteers that jump up and come out to all of these to help put on amazing shows, and we had 11 conventions.
Wow.
Plus a few, game day events. We're planning another charity game day event at the end of this month, and we're already getting started for early next year on conventions. So we keep ourselves busy that way.
It's pretty evident. Yeah, pretty impressive.
So when are you going to make your way down to Utah and hit a convention out here?
Well, once I rack up some air miles that I can cash in, I'll make the trip for sure.
It'd be all that sweet money from your writing. That's why we all do it, right? We all write for the money.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
That's it. Yeah, we all make lots of money.
Mm-hmm.
So,
for those listening at home, that's not correct. No. Unless you've got some magic bullet and are in a whole pile of people's pockets, it's a hard slog, but an enjoyable one.
It is enjoyable. It is definitely, writing is not one that you get into for the money or the fame. It's you write because you love to do it. But when we get to work with such great other creative minds, it makes it all worth it. So when we start to hear some of the good feedback coming in, despite some of the bad that we get, there's always that good stuff that we get to listen to. So that's another good question. Actually, that's one that I get asked. How do you deal with negative reviews?
Yeah, that's hard. You're always going to get it, and what you have to accept is, for that individual, that's the reality that they have. They're coming at your product or whatever you've written with all their experience, all their encounters in the past, adjusting how they see your item, and it might align with yours and it might not, but it's, in the end, it has to be good feedback that you accept and try to use to make whatever you do next a little bit better, provided that it's not a malicious sort of attack. They don't like you because your skin's blue or something. But it's you have to take it as a learning opportunity. And one of the things with social media I've found is it's easy to misread words. And I encounter this in my regular work environment where you read an email or you read something written down and you don't have the social cues that you would have if you're talking to someone in person. So you might read something, oh crap, what the heck? Why'd the person say it that way? And they might not have intended it to come across in such a negative manner, although that definitely does happen. The the trick is to try to remove the emotion from reading it and try to parse out that, okay, what is it really that the guy's getting at, or why did this individual call out this piece that I wrote? And chances are there's a bit of truth to what they're saying. It might be a little expanded or more dramatic than you would like, but usually there's things to be learned from all criticism.
Some good answers right there. I agree. You have to separate the emotion, and I think that's one of the hardest things. As a writer, we're putting our baby out there to be massacred, and
Yeah,
that's really hard to do. As a writer, we put our heart and soul into this, and um, we have to accept that it is going to get picked apart, and we are going to get hurt, and the editors are going to be hard on it. I get it. I'm one of those where I've played both writer and editor, so I'm on both sides of it. And I always tell, when I'm talking as the writer, I tell the writers, it's like, it's your job to take offense to everything that I'm about to say, because that is your baby. But as an editor, it's my job to destroy your baby so that it can be better in the end.
yeah,
So
and I think there's a tendency where a lot of writers have an introverted bent. I mean, you live in the world that you're creating, and you're writing away. And a characteristic of introverts is not wanting to put yourself out there for fear of criticism. Like and so you're naturally opening yourself up for that.
yeah,
Explicitly the opposite of what you would normally want to do. But it's how to not take things personally. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but that's something that you kind of have to do as a writer.
yeah. Well, Joe, thank you so much for coming on. I don't have any other real questions here. Anything you want to push? Anything you want to kind of get out to the world about how to find more of your work? Any websites or blogs or anything you got?
Sure. I guess I'm most active on Twitter, or at least I browse it most there. You can reach me at _Joe_Raso, RASO. I have a blog website that I'm trying to stay up to date on, though I think sometimes a month goes by before I throw things in there. It's called the schemingdm .wordpress.com. I am trying to be active on Facebook because there's some pretty good communities there, but I have to admit I'm not a frequent participant in that space as much as maybe I should be.
There's too many socials out there. I'll tell you what. There's too many of them. I'm trying to keep up on top of all of them. I struggle. I think Facebook's the one that I do the best with. So, have you tried MeWe? Have you heard of MeWe?
I've heard the word. I do not know what it is.
David Morris got me started in MeWe, and I still can't figure it out. It's just, I'm part of a bunch of groups on there, but I'm not sure how to make that work for me. So,
yeah, I think the problem is there's such a great variety of social sites that you can use. It's hard to have enough time to actively dedicate enough of your focus to any one of them. So you usually end up focusing on one or two that you get accustomed to.
yeah, I agree. All right, Joe. Well, thanks again for taking the time out. Appreciate it. I love working with you. I look forward to seeing all the great stuff that you've got coming out. And if anyone has any other questions, feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Joe. If you're interested in the Kyber Chronicles, working on something like that, we'd love to have you. Reach out to us at underthewinggaming.com. You can Facebook, underthewing.com. Email me at dave at underthewing.com. Underthewinggaming.com is the email. So, and
I
thanks
assume
again.
you'll have little widgets under
I'll
the
have
display
all
to
the
link.
little clicky on the thingy down belowy. So I'll have all the stuff down there if you're watching this on the YouTubes. So, all right. Well, thanks again, Joe.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.